Well, I want to welcome you to the first episode of The Five on the AlignedLife podcast. This is a show I've been thinking about for a while, and this is the beginning days. And I am operating under the mindset of perfect is the enemy of great. And while I would love to have a different setting than the usual podcast studio for this show, while I would love to have graphics and all these other cool things going, I'll never get there if I just don't hit record and do the first episode. So I've got a whole lineup of topics and points I want to discuss in this week's episode, but let me tell you about the show, what it is, what you can expect, and then we'll get to this week's episode. So the five, what does the five mean? I had a good friend of mine tell me that the name was kind of vague, and I realized that, and I kind of like that. I want to see if I can create a show that eventually you know what the five means. Hopefully, you might be able to figure out what some of the five represents just by being here on the AlignedLife podcast, reading my daily notes, watching videos, reading the AlignedLife blog, all of the stuff I'm creating. You might be able to figure out 4 out of the 5 easily. And if you really are paying attention, you should know the 5. But the 5 are 5 areas I'm going to discuss every single week, relevant and current topics that fall into these categories. Now, what are the categories? Spirit, mind, body, money. Those are the 4 that should have been really, really easy for you to guess. And the 5th one being a wild card. It doesn't fall into that alignment, but it's something I think is very, very important as we pursue our authentic lives and look to find our true self and who we are and how we want to show up in the world. And it's creativity. So that's kind of my wild card and something that I really enjoy. And I like the idea of having a topic around creativity each week just because it gives me the flexibility to talk about stuff that I enjoy, like hip hop or art or music or movies or whatever it might be can fall into creativity. So the goal is to show up here every single week. We're going to start with Wednesdays at 5. That's today. But I think I'm going to move it to Monday at 5. So rather than be middle of the week and have news that is covering actually 2 weeks' time, starting on Mondays, 5 o'clock, every Monday, 5 o'clock, there's going to be an episode, to show up. And my goal to give you the vision is this will eventually be a live show. This will be live on YouTube every Monday at 5. For those of you that are pursuing your authentic life, you want to continue to grow and hear about different ideas and find ways that you can align your spirit, mind, body, money, express yourself creatively, you'll know when to show up. And obviously, it'll be a replay. It'll be on the podcast shortly thereafter. But that is the ultimate goal. And I would love to have a co-host in the future. And I would love to have graphics popping up while I'm talking. But again, you got to start somewhere. So I am starting here today. Even though it's Wednesday, I didn't want to wait until Monday because I was really excited about what I was able to generate. Full disclosure, Claude is my co-partner in this. I am giving it information that I want to try to find. It is helping me source those, and then I'm kind of creating a script with it. So this is not an AI video, but I am leveraging my good friend Claude to help me source the material throughout the week because at the end of the day, as much as I love doing this and as much as I want to see this show succeed, I have other responsibilities. I have my clients I have to take care of. I have the growth of Santiago and new clients coming on to do the coaching and the life planning and the alignment of resources with that. I have my family. I have taking care of myself. So while I would love to just spend all my time perusing all of the headlines and all the studies that are out there, I'm going to lean on my friend Claude to help me source that, lean on it to help me come up with a little bit of a script. And then you know me, I don't operate off of a script fully. I'm just going to go talk about the things I think are really important and put these ideas in front of you. And I'll be sure to source all of the articles, all of the studies, everything that I'm talking about will be in the show notes so you can read deeper because I'm not going to read you the pieces. I'm going to give you the high level and I'm going to share with you what I think is important. Another thing you can expect is my goal is, and the plan is to, at the end of every section, to give you something to think about, a question to reflect on yourself. You can journal on it, you can meditate on it, but just something to think about that ties into the conversation that I'll be having with you in that section. Spirit, mind, body, money, creativity, we will flow in that order. You should know that by now, but if you're new to the channel, the reason for that is I think the alignment of spirit, mind, body, and money is very, very important. It has been very important to me, and it's the foundation for the work that I do with my clients. And the reason I go in that order is my belief is if we have this authentic life, there's a creator, choose your creator, whomever, however you want to identify that has created you for a purpose, has given you unique gifts and talents, has given you a reason to be here and something to bring to the world. And we want to start with that connection first to begin to figure out what are those things. It'd be nice if when we were born, we were given a piece of paper and says, here's your purpose, here's your unique gifts and talents, here's how you're supposed to show up in the world to make the maximum impact. But that's not how it goes. We have to discover these things on our own, which is a part of the growth that we go through life. So the connection to spirit is the most important in my mind, because that is when we begin to figure out who we really are. If we can listen to our hearts, listen to our body, pay attention to the signs that show up, the synchronicities in life that are, I believe, guidance from our higher powers, from the divine, to help us figure out our way or confirm us that we're on the right path. So we're going to start with spirit. Mind, once you get that image, once you get that understanding of who you are and the life you're supposed to live, it cannot come into existence without your mind. Your mind has to believe in this version of yourself, has to believe in this life before it can ever exist. When you believe it, you will see it. It's my favorite way of flipping that saying. I didn't come up with it. I first heard it from Bob Proctor. So I'm not trying to own that phrase, but I love it. So you have to believe in this vision. You have to believe in yourself. And then on top of it, you have to be in control of your mind, because there is a war on your mind today. With social media and the news and all of the things that are going on, those are all distractions, whether by design or not, to take you away from what it is you're supposed to do. And if you allow those to creep into your mind, it will shape your experience with the world, which will take you away from what you're supposed to be doing. So the mind is next. Your authentic life cannot exist without your mind. Your body, really important. We only get one physical body. We need this physical body to be in the best shape as possible to be able to execute on this authentic life that we have been given and are supposed to live. Now, I know that you can do everything right from a health standpoint, exercise regularly, eat healthy, all of those things, and still end up getting sick or having an ailment or not being able to be at your best physically. And that's just part of your story. But what I want to try to avoid is causing harm to our body because we're not taking care of it that impacts our ability. So we have the opportunity to cause the harm, and sometimes there's things we can't control that are out of our hands that we just have to roll with, and we can't do that. So I would love to see, if I'm ever in a situation where my body is failing, I don't want to look back and say, I wish I would have done these things to take better care of myself, because now I can't be the most authentic version of myself the way I'm supposed to show up. So body needs to execute it. Secondarily, if you're not taking care of your body and your body is aching and you hurt and you feel bad and you don't have energy, that's going to begin to weigh on your mind and pull your mind out of alignment with your spirit. So body is really important. And then finally, money. I'm a financial advisor. I have been for 20 years. I don't plan to give any financial advice on this show, but money touches everything. And what I have found is a lot of people's money struggles come from a lack of purpose, a lack of self-worth, a lack of self-love. And with alignment of spirit, mind, and body, you begin to go internal for validation, and you build that confidence, and you love yourself, and money kind of falls into place. And there's tons of ways, and over the show, we'll get into it. You can go through the archives of the podcast, and you can hear some of those conversations, but that's why we go in that order. And again, the wild card of creativity is, I think creativity is one of the things that makes us different and unique. Whether that be we are actually creative and we create art like you see in my studio, or we create art like music, whatever it may be, but there is a creative element to living, and creativity is a way to express yourself, the way you dress. That is really important, and not enough of us express ourselves creatively, and through that creativity, I think we find new things about ourselves, and when you really tap into it, it takes you on a different journey. So I know that's a little bit of long-winded on this intro. We haven't even got to the intro of the episode, but I felt like it was really important to set the stage for what this show is going to be about. A weekly show. I know today is Wednesday, but I'll be back on this coming Monday. Mondays at 5 is the plan. That's where we're going to start. Every Monday, the 5s at 5 on the AlignedLife podcast, going through one topic or a couple topics if need be in the areas of spirit, mind, body, money, and creativity, with the hopes of helping you find alignment of those areas to move you closer to your authentic life and allow you to live the life that you're supposed to live. And if we all did that, we would almost live in a perfect society. I know it's not possible, but my goal, the revolution that I'm supposed to be leading, is helping more and more people begin to discover this. And even if it's just a handful of us that do it, us handful of people who are living the life we're supposed to live will make a big impact on the world. Others will see us doing it. They'll want to do it, and they'll follow the leader. So that is the intention of the 5s on AlignedLife podcast. Let's get to this week's episode. So I did a little bit of writing beforehand. So in the future, maybe I'll have a teleprompter. Again, perfect is the enemy of the great. So bear with me as I read this, but I put some thought behind it, and I want to make sure I kick this episode off now that we're getting into it properly. Something is shifting. I don't think I'm the only one feeling it. In fact, I know I'm not, because I'm having this conversation with a lot of people currently. And this week's content confirms it across every single pillar we cover on this show. A generation is turning toward faith, not out of tradition, but out of desperation for something real. The government just opened the door to healing the mind in ways it's kept locked for 60 years. Some of us, well, not some of us, some have, I haven't known. Some have known about this, but now it's being put in the limelight and becoming more accessible to more people. People are questioning whether the body they live in is the one they've actually been present in. The definition of financial success is being rewritten from the ground up, and I hope to be somebody who helps rewrite that. And a machine just scored higher than the average human on a creativity test, which doesn't really scare me. Actually, it clarified something. This week on The Five, we're covering all 5 pillars: spirit, mind, body, money, and creativity. And the thread running through them all the same, one this show has been all about. What does it actually mean to be alive and aligned? So let's get into it. So we start off at spirit. And we're starting this week with spirit because this is where we're always going to start. You heard this already, so I'll skip the introduction on that part. But a new Barna survey dropped this week showing that roughly 80 million Americans, led by Generation Z, believe a spiritual revival is coming. But not necessarily in the way you might be thinking about. They're not pointing to prayer or tradition as the reason. They're pointing to anxiety, loneliness, and a hunger for something real. So that tells me that the spiritual conversation in this country isn't really about religion. It's about people who are tired of feeling empty and finally admitting it out loud. And so they're looking for something real. They're looking for connection. They're looking for a belief. They're looking to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And they're looking to spirituality. And spirituality is very broad. So when I talk about aligning spirit, mind, body, and money, I don't tell you this is how you need to practice your spirituality. I don't tell you this is how spirit needs to show up, because I don't believe there's one right answer. And what I really believe is when you strip it all down, the spiritual component, the religious component across the board, if you get back to the core of what it really is before mankind got a hold of words and changed it to suit their needs, it's all saying the same thing. And so we know that people today are less connected than ever. We know that anxiety and depression is higher than ever, despite having the opportunity to be connected to more people and have more in front of us. People are getting burned out of that. And I think pendulums swing, and I think that the pendulum has swung so far to the direction of inauthenticity and being on social devices and not having human interaction that it's going to swing back. And I'm not the first person to say that, but I've been saying it for a while. I really do believe that community is something that people are seeking. And stay with the show, stay with the podcast, because I have something for you in that realm coming up that I'm really excited to share, but I'm just going to tease it for now. So an interesting thing is, if you look at a percentage, 38% of Gen Z are believing that this spiritual revival is coming. And while you look at the landscape, it may not look like it because there's a lot of chaos, a lot of negativity, a lot of fear in society today. I've done some reading and have talked to people who have talked about that this level of kind of, I don't want to say chaos, but this disruption, this disturbance in the world is actually a sign of an elevation of consciousness, a spiritual revival, and that we have to kind of go through these things to begin to reveal things we always thought were true, to realize they've been false, to allow us to grow. And there's plenty of examples of this. You know, one that has been in the news for a long enough time now is the Epstein files. And, you know, we're not getting all of the truths behind that, but that document is showing things that maybe people thought were true or people talked about but didn't believe was a real thing, and we're seeing that it was real and it was really bad. Or I shared an article in the past in the Weekly Note about how the American dream is not living up to the end of the bargain that we've been promised. You know, go to school, get a career, do these things, you'll have a house, you'll have a family, and so many people are not experiencing that. So they've done their end of the bargain, but they're not getting in return what they're supposed to. And so beginning to question, and with that questioning and with that revealing of things that have been hidden from us, it allows us to rethink what we believe, what we want, and begin to create a new reality. And that is where growth comes. So I am in that camp. I'm not Gen Z, but I am in that camp that I do think there is a greater shift going on. I do think spirituality, however you want to practice it, is going to be a big part of it. And you are seeing more younger people going and getting together in churches or different spiritual practice places to get together and have community and have a sense of belonging and being with others. So I think this is something that we'll continue to see. I don't think it's going to slow down. If anything, I think it's going to speed up, because as an outsider, if you're not a part of a community like that and you see people there and you begin to see how their lives begin to change and they have more of a sense of purpose and they're happier and they have things to go do, you're going to want that as well. And so whether you join them or you seek out your own, community, is going to be there. And with more community, I think more spiritual growth comes with that. So the question that I'm going to leave you with for spirit is the hunger for spiritual revival really a hunger for authenticity? And what does that mean for how you're living right now? All right, let's dive into the mind. I mentioned this in the intro about the government making something available. So last week, when I pulled this, it was the same day. But last week, President Trump signed an executive order fast-tracking psychedelic therapy, psilocybin, ibogaine, MDMA, to help with mental health. Now, you can go back to the archives of the Align Life podcast and look for the episode with my friend Lindsay Troxel. We started out talking about somatic work, but then we got into psychedelics in the work there. And she does a great job of explaining how psychedelics can help when it comes to trauma and PTSD. And so go listen to that. There's more to it. But I think one of the examples I wanted to highlight that she talked about is that a lot of times where the trauma, the PTSD that stays with us is we don't complete the cycle of stress. And she has a great example of talking about an animal. I think it's, a gazelle being chased by a lion, and when it gets away, it shakes violently, and that's kind of completing the stress cycle. And so one of the ways that psychedelic work helps is it allows the individual to go back and not necessarily relive the trauma in the same state, but go back to it and close that cycle and close that loop. So then now that loop is no longer open and no longer living in within, and it has helped people move on. And in Lindsay's episode, she talks about how it helped her partner. So I do think this is a big thing. It'd be interesting to see how this all plays out, because we know that there's a lot of money in the pharmaceutical world that this more natural approach works against. So it'll be interesting to see how the lobbying plays out, how big pharma gets involved with this. But I do think it is a positive. A lot of these things have been used for generations, thousands of years, and have had positive impacts, and we haven't been able to use it before. So it'll be interesting to see. I think that it is a good move forward. Now, obviously, we have to worry about it being abused and used improperly, but the reality of it is people have been taking these things illegally and not with the proper protocols with them already. So I don't know how much that changes, but I do think that there are a lot of people who are suffering, and the prescriptions that they have and the therapies they're going through aren't working. And this has a very good track record, a lot of academic research and scientific evidence that it can help under the right settings. So I think that that is a positive. So not a whole lot more to go into that, but I'll go share my question with you. So set the politics aside, because it's not meant to be a political conversation. What does it say about how we approach mental health that we've had these tools and looked away for the last 60 years? And I do have some commentary on this question, going back to the spiritual revival and the questioning and the peeling back of the layers and seeing how things really are. This is one of those things that makes you question the system, the institution, the rules that we've been playing by. If this information has been around and we've known these things can help people, then why have those who have been in control kept those things away from us? And what else are they keeping away from us? So I do think this kind of feeds into that, just that awareness of what we've been told in the past to trust and to follow hasn't always been the only option. What other options are out there? And this gives us more information to think for ourselves and question, and then also advocate for ourselves and take care of our bodies, which is the perfect segue into body. All right, and so body, there's a study out of Swansea University showing that when AI shows people more possibilities, they actually become more engaged, more creative, more present in the task. And so my first thought was that's the opposite of what most of us do with our bodies. So this isn't really about AI. I'm using this AI to connect to, we don't pay as much attention to our bodies as we probably should. And the connection there was with AI, it showing people the possibilities allowed them to be more detailed, more focused on things. So I don't know if there's any AI that exists that would help us pay more attention to our bodies, but just the thought process of, are there ways for us to allow us to move beyond just the optimization, tracking, your workouts, your steps, your macros, all those things that a lot of us do, and, spend more time tracking presence in our own body. And this, not to bring up Lindsay's episode again, but this is the work of somatics. Listening to your body. Your body holds a lot. If you have trauma, your body holds that trauma. Your body can signal to you, gut feelings, intuition. Your body is constantly talking to you, but most of us, we live from the neck up. I have always had a hard time doing visualization and meditations or guided meditations. And I'm good visualizing, a light on my head and moving down. And then once I get kind of below the head, I start to struggle. And so it's something I've been working on, is just listening more to my body. What is it telling me? And then taking that information and actually doing something with it. So, this brings up the idea of somatics. I think that somatic work will be a conversation piece that will come up a bunch on this podcast, because there's more attention being paid to that. Again, that is kind of a spin-off of the spiritual revival as well. So with this conversation of somatic and body wellness, the body holds what the mind tries to manage. So I mentioned the alignment of spirit, mind, body, and money. The body's holding what the mind is trying to manage. Real healing and energy is coming from inhabiting your physical life, not just by optimizing it. So we've been trained, as I said, to live from the head up, and it's costing us, and a lot of us aren't even aware of it. So the point of bringing this to this episode was just to realize that we are probably neglecting a lot of what our body is telling us, and we need to pay more attention to not just taking care of it physically, but listening to it, living in it, and being present with it. And one of the ways to be more present with it is just to slow down, spend less time scrolling, make time for yourself, whether that is going for a walk, sitting, meditating, but just don't always be on the go, and just sit for a moment. And notice what you feel. And just pay attention to it. And then you can begin to listen and read to it. So my question to end the body section: when did you last actually listen to your body instead of just managing it? All right, money. That's probably one of my favorite topics this week, just because it's beginning to shake the definition of what is success. What does it mean to have wealth? So 2 studies that I found this week, or Claude and I found this week, and together they say something important. Wells Fargo Money Study says that Gen Z wants to own businesses and control their destiny. The KeyBank Financial Mobility Survey says Americans just want to be debt-free and stable. And you can see how those two might connect. On the surface, they look like different goals, but I think they actually express the same thing in 2 different ways. People don't want money. They want a feeling. They want freedom. They want security. They want control over their life. So debt takes away that. Working a 9-to-5 or working a job that you don't like takes that away. Entrepreneurship may give you more of that freedom and flexibility back. So you can see how those two get us to the same spot. So the problem is not most people are chasing that feeling without ever stopping to define it. And you can't build a plan around feeling you've never named. So this is where I write about and then talk about, coming up with your own definition of success, coming up with your own definition of wealth. Not the one that society says we're supposed to have, not the one your parents told you to have, not the one professors told you to have, but your definition of success. What matters most to you, and stick to that. Use that as your North Star. But most people have never sat down to really think about what they define as success. And I'll tell you that money will always be a small part of that, but it will be secondary. Most people, their goal is not to be a billionaire. Most people want to have enough resources to live life the way they want to, spend time with people that they love, and not worry about money. And so we get fixated on thinking we need all this money when really we don't need it. And then once you get to that level of foundation, you can begin to build and do different things. But money is not the answer. Money is not the goal. The goal is the lifestyle. The goal is the values. The goal is what you feel like you want to do, and then you can align money with it. And these studies are showing people are beginning to see that. I hope more people are beginning to see that, because that's the work I want to do. What I think the problem is, again, and what I'm seeing is a lot of people don't know who they are. They don't know what they want. They don't know what their purpose is in life at this time. And that purpose will probably change over time. So there are some people maybe that found it at one stage of life, but never evolved with the next version of their purpose. And so that's why my focus on my work with people doing one-on-one is the life planning. It starts with, who are you? What does your life look like that you want? Okay, great. Now we can align the money to it. So it's encouraging to me to see younger generations wanting to do that. I want to make a comment about owning a business. I think entrepreneurship is great. I also think entrepreneurship does not always mean you have to own your business. Not everybody's meant to be a business owner. There's trade-offs. So yes, it's great. There's a lot of freedom that comes with owning your own business, but there's also a lot of responsibility. There's also things you don't get to get. You lose some freedoms because you have a business you have to run. So for example, vacations for me are never really fully unplugged, because I have clients who may need me, and I have to at least stay dialed in case somebody needs something. And rarely does anything that happens in a short amount of time impact investments that I manage, but I still have to be aware of what's going on and paying attention and being able to move if I need to. That's a trade-off. I could never go away for 6 months and go on a big meditation trip over in India or something. Like, I can't do that with this job. That's a freedom I don't have, but I have a lot of other freedoms. So entrepreneurship isn't right for everybody. Entrepreneurship doesn't give you all of the freedoms you want because there's always a trade-off. But entrepreneurship and owning your own business does give you a lot of flexibility that people don't currently have and that they seek. So just don't think that you have to be an entrepreneur. Don't think that you have to own a business. For me, I think entrepreneurship starts as a mindset. So being able to see a way to solve different problems or solve problems in a different way than others is entrepreneurial. And you can do that within the constraints of a company. And the reality of it is we need people who work best in a company. Not everybody can be a business owner. We need people to help the business owners go. So don't get caught up in, I won't say it's hustle culture, but entrepreneurship culture. Don't get hung up in you have to own a business to be successful. For some people, that is the only way to do the thing that they want to do. Maybe you own a small business as it complements the work that you do. But you're seeing that more and more people are wanting to take more control. And freedom and flexibility are two of the most important things to me. So I resonate with what these studies are showing. So my question to end the money section, what feeling are you actually building your financial plan around? And have you ever said it out loud? And I'm going to take it one other level. Have you ever had anybody say it back to you? If you haven't, think it, write it down, speak it to yourself, speak it to somebody else, and then let that person say it back to you. And each one of those will resonate differently with you. All right, and so we're going to get to the last one, creativity. And again, this is the wild card. There's two things I want to talk about today. There's a study I want to mention, and then I want to talk about Justin Bieber's Coachella performance. I wrote about it, but it's still something I think about and I really love, and I just want to highlight something on it. So as we wrap up the episode with creativity, a landmark study showed that AI now beats the average human on certain creativity tests. I don't care about tests. Like, tests don't necessarily show, okay, you can answer questions and show creativity on a test, but showing it in real life is different. And that might sound alarming, but it actually kind of gives me some confidence and clarity in my own creativity. Because the same study said that most creative humans still aren't even close to being matched by machines. So where are you most creative? Like, a machine might be able to draw better than me, but a machine may not be able to write better than me. It may not be able to hop on a video and go off the top of my head on a topic like me. So where are you most creative? Where are you best in your creativity? And that makes you probably less of a threat, or AI less of a threat to you. So the connection I made to this is creativity was never really about the output. It was about the person creating it. So the question I want to sit with today is, why do you create? Don't create for an audience. Don't create for the algorithm. This is Rick Rubin type stuff. You create for you first. You are the audience. Create for an audience of one and share it. And when you go to share that creativity, it's out of your hands how people receive it. And over time, if you're meant to be creating and it's meant to be a part of what you're doing, your audience will find you. Your fans will find you. Like, there are musicians that you probably can't stand that have a big following. We don't have to be for everybody. So I don't think that AI to the creative person should be a threat. I think that I also hold the belief that as more AI continues to do creative work, quote unquote creative work, that maybe we won't be able to tell the difference, but I think maybe we will seek out work that we know was created by a person. Personal preference. Like, that would be mine. Like, yes, it'd be awesome to read a book that was written by AI that was really good, but my values and what I prefer is I want to know that somebody actually wrote it, and I would seek that out. So you might put something in front of me, I might think it's really good, and you may be, oh, it's AI, I tricked you. That's fine. But if I'm going to be looking for a book to read for pleasure or even for education, I'm going to be looking for books that were written by a human just because I want to support that creativity. As a creator, I know how hard it is to create. As a creator, I know how frustrating it can be when you don't feel like you're getting the traction that you want. And I don't want to just get information just to get information. I want to get information and support others at the same time. Not everybody's going to be that way, But I think that AI will do a great job with some of this creative work, but I still think there's going to be room for us as individuals to create. And when we find the area that we can create best, that authentic version of ourselves in creating, that will separate us from AI, and you'll be able to tell the difference. And at the end of the day, creativity doesn't have to be your job. I think it is something you should be doing. So who cares if AI is better than you at drawing? If you enjoy it, it allows you to express yourself, then you should be doing it. So my question, before I get to Justin Bieber, if AI can generate it, the only thing that makes your work matter is that you made it. So what are you making today and why? And as I wrap this up with Justin Bieber at Coachella, it's a little late now. It's probably over a week old now, but I still keep thinking about it. And first off, I think it's funny the way that it was presented to everybody about him pulling up YouTube and going through old songs and going down, trip down memory lane with his fans. Because that was only part of his set. I think his set was like 90 minutes, and that was maybe 20 minutes of it. And my wife was telling me. And so on first glance, I saw people say that that's not creative, it's lazy. And I can see why they would say that. But creativity doesn't always mean brand new and exciting and something different. In reality, it was different. When's the last time you saw somebody on stage do that? It was a creative risk to be not overly creative, to not have a bunch of distractions on stage and just sit down, sing over the YouTube. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I love it if it really was a way to get around not having to pay royalties to the people that own his music. I love that if he found a loophole to be able to perform these songs, and since he was singing along and over YouTube, it wasn't him performing, and he doesn't have to pay the people that he had a bad relationship with that own his music. I think that's pretty cool. But the reason I wanted to bring it up is I just think it is an example of doing something for yourself. Now, yes, Justin Bieber has the luxury of having millions of fans, and there were a lot of people there who loved the performance. I think his true fans did, because it allowed them to reconnect back to when they first fell in love with his music or fell in love with him as a performer. And to provide somebody that experience is invaluable. You get to go back to a time that was probably a happy time in your life, being younger and loving the music and having a crush on him or whatever it may have been for the fans, and you gave them the opportunity to relive that alongside you. Like that's pretty cool. And so doing it for himself because he wanted to, his true fans enjoyed it, and everybody else who was talking trash about it, they don't matter. He wasn't creating for them for anyways. So it doesn't matter what they think because it wasn't for them. And so I just think as you think about whether it's creating or putting anything out there, you're doing it for yourself first, not worrying about what people say and what the critics say. If you did if you enjoyed it and you did your best work, that's all that matters. And if you keep on doing that, good things will happen. And I think also what's really cool is going back to the very first side of the spirit thing. If you look at, I don't follow Justin Bieber very closely, but I have noticed that what I've seen over the last year or so appears that despite all of the trauma he has from growing up in the music business and some of the terrible things that were probably done to him, he seems to be at a place where he's in a good place. It seems that him and his wife have a great relationship. He's got his child. He's doing things the way he wants to, and just showing everybody again, reminding everybody again how good of an artist he really is. You look at his performance, I think it was at the Grammys, where he just walked out in boxers and had a mirror and played, just a raw version of his song. Nothing's fancy, very similar to the YouTube thing, but it's a creative expression, but it also, I'm sure there was symbolism behind it. Like you can take everything from me. I can stand up here in my boxers and I can still sing. And that's the thing that I love. That's the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. That's my gift to the world. And he's just doing it. He's doing things on his terms. And I'm happy for him. And I just think that is an example of what we can all do as well on our own level. We don't have to be Justin Bieber level, but we can do things that serve us, that make us happy, that lean into our gifts and talents and do it the way that we feel best, and things will work out. So that is it for the very first episode of the Fives on Aligned Life. If this information and this content is something that you are enjoying, is valuable, and you're not subscribed to my daily note, subscribe to my daily note. Every single day I write a note around something spirit, mind, body, money, or creativity. These notes are really downloads. I don't plan them. I get up and I write them sometime through the day. Used to be always in the morning, but sometimes I'm doing it a little bit later. But every day there's going to be a note that goes out. I'm on 1,185 today. If you don't want a daily email, there's a weekly note version. So every weekend, I send you all of the week's notes along with anything else that I've created. And then I try to curate a few things as well, other podcasts, books I'm reading, blog posts I'm reading that kind of fall into this ecosystem of the authentic life. You can get both of those at justincastelli.io. Everything actually is there. That's the best place to go if you want more of this type of content. I have a blog on there as well where I write more about money. I'm working on a book as well, so tons more coming. The reason I'm so passionate about this as I end this episode is because the alignment of spirit, mind, body, and money has been something that has changed my life, personally and professionally. This idea of the authentic life, which the AlignedLife ecosystem of podcast, blog, everything else that's coming is a part of, that is my purpose. That is my gift to the world right now of helping more and more people lean into who they're supposed to be, whether they know it or whether they need to find it, and bringing that version of themselves to the world. This is my purpose, and I have a number of ways that I'm going to be able to support people. My firm Santiago is where I do the work one-on-one. We've got all of the content I create to help. I have some other things that I'm building as well that will come, and they'll be a circle of things that you can just move through as you pursue your authentic life and meet you wherever you're at. So this is my purpose. This is what I love to do. This is the message I want to continue. And the alignment of spirit, mind, body, and money is too important not to discuss every week. And expressing yourself creatively is too important as well. So come back on Monday, 5 o'clock, the episode will drop. The 5's at 5 on AlignedLife, and we'll be talking about spirit, mind, body, money, and creativity. Between now and then, what's happening in the world will show up on that episode. So for that, I want to thank you for joining me. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast. This will always show up there. But I will be back Monday at 5 with some more headlines for you. Until then, keep pursuing.